this ended up being the fundamentals of 3D graphics for me. Learning things like OpenGL, which is one of the languages used to program real-time 3D graphics. And on top of that, of course, getting a strong foundation in C++ programming. Part of what tied into games for me, though, was that UCSD offered some courses in things like computer animation. So creating things like skeletal rigs that drive characters, and you can animate characters using these techniques. Learning some of the building blocks of building games. All the little things that you have to kind of understand in order to create games that are different from other games and to differentiate ourselves from the competition. Another big part of my education was computer graphics. So learning about simulation of light and how it passes through materials and simulating all of those things as you deal with creating a scene inside a computer. More graphics stuff. So sometime after I graduated, I did an undergrad tour doing computer science, then I did a graduate degree, a master's degree in computer graphics and rendering. This device came out. And this is the original iPhone, which is just clunky looking by today's standards and quite a bit smaller than what we're used to with these giant pocket-ripping devices we've been given now. But it was beautiful. And it had this just intriguing empty space on its home screen, this big black area that fascinated so many people. This idea, is Apple going to let us put stuff on here? Can we build things? And people started the jailbreak community where they were taking apart the operating system and installing their own apps and getting in early. We started following that movement as master's students. And when Apple released their toolkits, the SDKs, to start actually developing on the platform, immediately we started to use our imaginations of like, what could we build on this? And what could we use in our own backgrounds to create apps that would be interesting? We started to hear early stories of people making lots of money with really simple games. There was a game called Trism, which was basically triangles moving around on the screen, making a puzzle game, and it created like $100,000 a month for someone. So we thought, well, this could be more interesting than maybe going off and getting an internship somewhere or getting a job somewhere. Maybe we should try this whole gaming thing. So my first thought was, let's take real-world games and use some of the things that are unique about mobile devices. So a lot of the mobile devices have accelerometers, and you can judge how you move the device and how you orient the device. And there's this famous kind of ancient game, the ball and cup game. And my first inclination was, let's use the phone and try to simulate this thing. Turns out, so in real life, this game is really hard. It's extremely hard to catch the ball because the cup's really small. Putting this on a mobile device makes it even harder. So that made it a total no-go. I was like, ooh, this looks nice, but I don't think anyone's ever going to play this. However, I had two friends, Volker Schönefeld and Iman Mostafavi, in my lab, who were working on a tower defense game. The way these games work, if you're not familiar, a tower defense game, you have a base, and the base has something in it. So in the case of our games, you have sheep, and then there's something trying to invade that base. In our case, it's aliens, and they're coming to abduct those sheep. So you have to build defenses, and you have to place them in strategic positions in order to defeat those aliens before they can get to the sheep. And as you earn money by killing aliens, you can upgrade your defenses, and it's a sort of a strategic back and forth between you and the attackers. So they built this prototype over about 8 weeks. And I saw the prototype, and I was like, well, let me play it. Let me see how it actually works. And contrary to my ball and cup game, this game was super fun to play. But the key is that it was ugly. No one wanted to buy this game, because even compared to the games at the time, it was still really crude in its visual design. So what I ended up doing is bringing my expertise, both as an engineer and also as an artist, onto this project. And we started to work on building characters and telling a story. So I designed this sheep off of a stuffed animal that I had in my bedroom, and we researched lots and lots of different alien characters throughout popular media to build the character of kind of the cute and slightly dopey alien that's coming after those sheep. And we started to explore different kinds of places that this might take place, designing all the different weapons. And this was totally a dream project for us because we were having fun building something. We had no bosses. And we were just doing it on our own time. It was just sort of a side thing. So the other two guys were studying their PhDs. And I was doing some contract work, and this was kind of my hobby. So we released the game. And for the first, I think you can see there, about 6 months, the game had close to no downloads. However, Apple was really excited by it because this was the first 3D game on the platform. A lot of people hadn't built, actually, let me go back to this slide. People hadn't really built 3D games before for iPhones. Even though it had this great OpenGL processor, it was capable of doing it, but because the tools didn't exist, everybody was making two-dimensional games. So we wrote those tools. We built a 3D engine for the iPhone using our experience as computer graphics people. And that goes back to the whole idea that I think the panel mentioned of finding where your strengths are and finding a way to differentiate. So in any case, Apple really liked it. And they said, well, we'll promote this thing. And they did. And Apple's promotion is actually this little bump right here. So that didn't really work. But we were making okay money at the beginning. And it gradually started to dwindle. And this is where we got into another important lesson of entrepreneurship, which is deciding whether to stick with your idea or to go after something else. And at some point, we were making about $80 a day. And we thought, well, if we're going to like tie our lives to this company, $80 a day is like barely ramen money. So we're not going to be able to pay rents. I'm going to live with my parents forever. So we started to figure out, well, what can we do to actually change this? What can we do that's unique? How can we be different? How can we be crazy? And something no one was doing in 2009 when we faced this problem was making their games free. So we thought, well, why don't we just give the game away? Wouldn't that be a great way to get players? And people thought we were crazy. They're like, well, if you give away the game, then you're not going to be able to sell the game. And we thought, well, let's just see what happens. So we made it free. And that's the November 1st bump you see there. Making the game free changed everything. It became the #2 free app in the world. And it did something that was totally paradoxical, which is that it pulled the paid version, which was $3, up along with it. So it became the #22 paid app in the world. And that actually meant real revenue for us. And we started to realize that, hey, maybe we'd done the right thing after all. Maybe everybody who told us that we were crazy was wrong. And so we watched the game grow. And we started to do updates, adding maps, keeping the players happy. And this was a key thing for us, was understanding the customer, understanding what they wanted, what they liked about the game, what they didn't like about the game. We spent a huge amount of time, an unscalable amount of time, doing customer service and contacting individual players, saying, hey, what do you like about this game? Here are some free coins. Tell me everything you can about how you play and where you play and how things are going. We started to get an influx of emails as we did that. And we got happy emails saying, this is the best game I've ever played. I play this thing an hour a day. We get angry emails like, hey, so my boyfriend downloaded your game, and he's been playing it for the last 4 hours. He's in the bathroom right now. He's been in there for like 60 minutes, and all I hear are the lasers from Tower Madness. I don't like you guys very much right now. So that's how we knew we were really doing something right. We kept on growing, so we kept on doing updates, listening to the customer, and we started to get a lot of awards for our efforts, from Pocket Gamer and Gizmodo and MacLife and all these other publications we respected. We started to think about how can we change things further. And we realized that there's a lot of profit in being an arms dealer. And being Persian, being from the Middle East, this was a very controversial thing to pitch as, hey, I sell flamethrowers for a living. But I thought, well, let's try it, and let's see what happens, and we'll put some virtual goods in our game. And this is the early days, like literally the weekend after Apple had opened this up to people, to actually make secondary purchases inside a game, something we call in-app purchases. So I got a designer in San Diego to design a flamethrower model. I paid him $300. We didn't know how it would go. We figured we'd just lose the money. So we put this up on the store, and it was selling for 99 cents. So you can buy this now, roast some aliens. It's really powerful. It's pretty cool. In the first month, we sold 200,000 flamethrowers. And that's when we knew that we were onto a real business. This is my co-founder, Iman, and those are the early days when I was a young man. We're posing with a character from Cat in the Hat, and that's because we got the first Dr. Seuss contract. And this is where mentors came in. So we met a man named Michel Kripalani, who was another UCSD alum. And he helped us really get to the point of looking at other companies and licensing products and things like that. And so we did the first Dr. Seuss game on mobile. That was an experience in just building games quickly. 1 month it took us to build that game. This is another game we did called Nuts. And this is going after the children market. So this is about a squirrel running up a tree. Again, three-dimensional world. But here, we had real artists. We had the money to start expanding the team, investing into the company. At this point, still, we'd never taken any money. It was all really just on the back of what we'd done. So bringing on real artists, trying to experiment with what is that like, bringing on actual professionals that have done this for a living, rather than me sort of noodling around in graphics programs. And that's when we got this idea. We thought, well, let's go after another market that hasn't been touched by mobile. Let's go after the people that like to play on consoles, like the Nintendos and the Super Nintendos and the Xboxes and the PlayStations. Let's build a game about shooting zombies from an airplane. Now, granted, we were super drunk when we came up with this idea, but the morning after, we decided that, hey, this might actually work. So we built something called a game design document. This is pretty standard in the industry, where you just put all your ideas in one place, figure out what the game looks like. And we built a game called Zombie Gunship. And this was the culmination of having a professional team. We brought professional sound designers. We had the guy who did a game called Gears of War on Xbox do all of our sound work, which was great because he had a lot of experience with explosions and guns. And this game ended up being our most successful title of all time. 4 days after we released it, it became the #1 grossing app in the world, and it stayed there for the entire summer of 2011. So for us as a company, this was like a Series A round, but it was a Series A round at which we gave up no equity for. There's some artwork that we had. It was great working with artists, just because like you get this loop of inspiration as people work on art and they send it to you, and you're working on the code. It really feeds off the different disciplines. So seeing these types of concepts was really cool, and you can see a couple of shots from the game. Our most recent work is Tower Madness 2, where we revisited the original title. This app was selected by Apple a couple weeks ago as the app of the week. So we got about another 2 million downloads. And now we're standing somewhere around 34 million players across the world. But the key for us in this company was Ghormeh Sabzi. And what I mean is we bootstrapped the company, and I lived at home for a really long time. And we built it on the generosity of our parents, of our uncles, of our advisors. Everything we did was, let's eat Ghormeh Sabzi and make video games, and avoid going after financing, giving up control, getting all these things that would hurt our creative vision. Instead, let's do it all on our own vision of what we wanted to build. And let's just take it one step at a time, and let's design things in ways that no one's ever done before. Let's just build what works. So the company's still totally virtual. We don't have an office. People are all over the world. Everybody moved wherever they wanted to be. We do everything over Skype, over video. The team, including our contractors, is somewhere around 15 people now. But it still works, and it's a different experience. We don't spend any time commuting. We've identified areas where it's like, well, every company does it this way, but that doesn't mean that we should do it the same way. I also quickly want to talk about Persian culture here. This is the worst grade that you can bring home to your Persian parents. This is the worst grade. And do you know why? That's exactly right. It's the idea of you have to always be hungry, never be satisfied. You can't say that, oh yeah, the company's doing well, we're good, we're golden, let's go and buy sports cars and drive into the sunset. You have to find that A+, and that A+ is never achievable. You can always keep growing. I find that a lot of entrepreneurs become content after they have a long slog and they get to a point where they wanted to get to. They stop growing and they stop thinking about the next big idea. I think it's important to always stay hungry. And the other piece that was touched on by the panel so excellently is that all of entrepreneurship is about diving into the unknown. It's about being in uncomfortable situations, about being places you've never been before and not knowing what to do and not knowing that the decision you're going to make is the right decision, even when that decision could mean losing your company. We had all kinds of crazy situations. In the early days, we'd met with investors, and they'd be like, so what's your exit strategy? And we'd be like, I don't even know what that means. So learning things the hard way often means just doing them and getting it wrong. Another big lesson we learned is that taking money from customers is the most rewarding way to earn. It's more rewarding than getting a job and getting a paycheck. It's sometimes even more rewarding than exiting because you're getting a customer that says basically the thing that you've built is so important to me that I'm willing to reach in, grab my wallet, and give you money. That kind of validation for an idea that didn't exist, that you just had an idea while you were sort of sleeping and came up and decided to build, as an entrepreneur, I think this is what we live for. And I want to conclude by saying, make work play, and you'll be playing all your life. This is a quote that I live by. I think if you don't enjoy what you're doing, if you haven't picked an idea that doesn't inspire you every day, that isn't something you're excited to get up in the morning to do, and isn't something that keeps you awake at night, there's no question that your company can't survive, because every day you're going to hit a problem where that's going to be the only thing that will sustain you through it. And I hope this has inspired you to think differently about building companies, that there's no one right way to do it. Ultimately, you're building your own life, and build it the way you want to see it. Thank you.